My guest today is Christy Whitman, who is a transformational leader, celebrity coach, and law of attraction expert, as well as a New York Times best-selling author. Christy was a previous guest on LIFEOLOgy Radio, where she discussed her bestseller, Quantum Success. In today's episode, we talk about her latest book, The Desire Factor, how to embrace your materialistic nature to reclaim your full spiritual power. This book teaches you 7 steps to create and fulfill your desires. Welcome back to LIFEOLOgy.
Thank you so much for having me, James. I'm thrilled to be back with you.
Yes, we were so young back then. I think you were on my show like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So Circle. We look the same now, so that's good. I know, right? Well, I want to get a little bit more of your origin story again. So how did you even discover that you had this affinity and this ability to help people really focus on their desires and how to achieve them as well?
Well, for me, it was a personal discovery because I had graduated from college and started a career. I moved to Chicago. I had everything going for me. And it was like checking the boxes of these are the things that will make me happy. And I checked all the boxes and I wasn't happy. So for me, it was is this all there is? What is this about? And those bigger questions led me to move to California. And I met a woman that taught me about meditation. And when I met her, first thing she said to me was, you create your own reality. And something in me opened up. And I knew that to be true. But then, of course, my mind kicked in and said, how? How do I create my own reality? And she took it from the approach of your thoughts. You are either repelling things from you or attracting things to you based on the way you think. And that was the first moment in my life where I went, the way I think. I mean, aren't my thoughts real? I mean, the thoughts that I think in my head, isn't that true? So that was a moment of like, what? They're not true. Clarity, I can change my thoughts. That was amazing. And so that started me on learning, how do I change my thoughts? How do I work with my energy? And how do I work with my consciousness? And the biggest thing for me was that I realized that my whole training, upbringing, even though I was an upper middle class family from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I had nothing that, I had everything that I ever wanted, my mom and dad were so mired in struggle and worry and lack. Yeah. And that lack always felt bad. And so here I was. It made sense to me. I'm in Chicago making great money. I've got a great career. I live with my best friend in the greatest city on the planet. One of. But I'm not happy. Like, why am I not happy? What's this elusive happiness? What is the secret to this? And it was an understanding that I was all of my consciousness, what I said, what I thought, what I believed, what I felt. Everything was based in lack. And lack always feels bad. So I started to shift those thoughts and I started to shift old limiting beliefs. And when I did, each time I did, my life got better. Things opened up. Successes that I was waiting for popped. And, I met a really different man. I was in an 8-year relationship with a good guy instead of a bad guy because I used to like the bad boys. Even the things that I was attracted to changed.
Literally.
Literally changed. And so I was about 5 years in, and here I was married. I had a house. I had my ideal body, money in the bank, no debt. And once again, it was that feeling of, is this it?
Yeah.
And so there was always this inner core thing of, is this it? And for me, it was that understanding of, I wanted something in my career that was so much that I was passionate about, that I felt I was on purpose. And what I had learned in those 5 years is that whatever we perceive that we're lacking, we have the ability to transform by bringing in the energy. So what I mean by that is, I felt that I was lacking purpose and passion in my career. It was a pharmaceutical rep. I was making great money. But for me, I didn't have purpose with that. If I got a headache, I took peppermint oil and put it on my head instead of taking an aspirin. And here I was talking to doctors about prescribing medication. There was a disconnect, right? And so for me, it was understanding that I wanted to feel passionate and on purpose. And I started cultivating those feelings. I started imagining as if. I started seeping my entire consciousness with the fulfillment of me being in passion and purpose. And it was a very short period of time after that my first book, Perfect Pictures, literally downloaded at 1:05 in the morning for 7 nights in a row. And the book is 7 chapters. Yeah. So that was my first, channeling, if you will, for direct communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the book published. I started speaking on it. And then people started asking me to coach them, which back then, 20 years ago, I had no frame of reference for life coaching.
Of course, yeah.
Right? They were asking me, "Are you a coach?" And I'm like, "What, like a football coach or a cheerleading coach? What do you want me to coach you with?" Right?
That's funny.
and they would call me on the phone, and I loved the process. I had no formal training, but I was able to take them through, helping them shift. And they would call me back going, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." I was educating them on what I had been learning and applying for the past 5 years on the universal laws. And so I just kept moving and growing. And then over 15 years ago, I went full-time in my coaching business, and I haven't looked back. 7 books later, I've certified over 3,000 law of attraction coaches. So it's an amazing journey.
And it all started with you saying, "Is this all there is?" And that is phenomenal. Yeah. That's one thing I always tell people is it's the same concept. But when people talk to me about that, if you have thoughts, is this all there is? I can't imagine myself doing this again. I quantify that as mediocrity. Not that you're that you are a mediocre person, but you're experiencing mediocrity, and it's your subconscious telling you, "I want something more. There's something more that I need in life, and I have to seek and find it." So it's obviously the same concept that you have. But anytime people have those thoughts, it's an immediate recognition that it's time for you to level up. And there's always I want to say like a divine moment, but when you have that is a moment that's been specifically given to you to say, "This is the time, not tomorrow. This is the time." And as we know, change is simply a thought away.
Yes. And, it's the whole concept and the ideas of why I wrote The Desire Factor, because we get desires. Like even that, "Is this all that is?" That came from a desire of, I'm not satisfied where I'm at. Yeah. So what is my desire? What is it that I want? And those desires, like you're saying, they come from a higher place. We're the receiver of those desires. And when we listen to them and go, I want more from my life. I want to create more impact. I want to feel passionate. I want to feel on purpose. I want to create my ideal partner. I want to have children. I want to live in my dream home. Whatever those desires are, those have an opportunity to grow us, to expand us into who we are not now, but they have the potential to create, for us to expand and become more, like you're saying.
Yes, that is phenomenal.
Without desires, nothing gets created.
Exactly. That's a great point. I want to also quantify the word lack, because I understand the concept of lack, but sometimes people may not understand the full connotation of what that means. Could you explain that to us so people can really then assimilate what you're saying and say, "Oh, that does make sense to me. I can see how that would resonate with me."
Yeah, let's really talk about it because it's important. So lack or limitation, it's noticing that you are not satisfied because you are we say, "Oh, I don't have enough time." We could lack time. I don't have what it takes. I don't have enough support. Even anything coming from separation, struggle, drama, chaos, all of the lower level emotions such as fear and worry and doubt and frustration, disappointment and anger and sadness, and all of that are rooted from lack. So it's a mental concept that we say, "I don't have enough. I'm not enough. She's not enough. He's not enough. I don't have, there's not enough money. There's not enough time." And when you have that concept of lack, it feels bad. We feel bad. If you look at it like a spectrum, on one side of the spectrum is lack, on the other side of the spectrum is abundance. And in the middle, that tipping point, because at some point you go from lack to abundance, that tipping point is satisfaction. And most of us have been programmed, imprinted, conditioned to be in lack. You could look at a lot of our advertising. It's like, you don't have this. And until you do, you can't get the gal, or you're going to have the wrinkles, or you're, whatever it is. And we learn that by our parents going, "Oh, don't be disappointed. Don't do this," and we're conditioned that way. They didn't mean to. They didn't go, "I want to screw up my kids, right? I mean, they
Of course not.
didn't do that.
Yeah.
How could
Yeah.
they mess them up? I mean, none of them did that. They did the
Sure.
best they could. But how could they teach abundance if they were also in lack?
Correct.
You know, I look at my parents who are 85 and 89, blessed to still have them. They are taken care of for the rest of their lives and still constantly worry that they're never going to have enough. And it is that's the pandemic, really. It's that fear,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
that fear of not knowing your own ability, not knowing what's breathing you, the fact that all of us are breathing the divine, which is abundant. And when we can start to look for, believe in a world of abundance, that's what we create, because we create from our beliefs.
Yes.
So
Yes, we do.
lack and limitation always feels bad. If you are moving about your day and you feel bad, check what thought you just had, because it could be something as simple as, oh, I'm so tired. I don't have enough energy. That thought leaves us feeling bad.
Yes.
So watching our thoughts and watching those beliefs, if they are coming from a place that doesn't feel good, we have the ability to at least come back into a place of satisfaction that I have enough energy in this moment. I have enough money in my bank right now. I have enough air in my lungs. I have food in my refrigerator. Whatever it is, to come back to satisfaction, because that's the doorway that opens you up to a world of abundance, that's where alignment is. That's where creativity happens.
With what you're saying, you know, from a psychological approach, definitely want to corroborate what you're saying, because in psychology we teach that whatever you perceive to be true, what your reality is determines how you feel. Your feelings determine how your body responds, either through a chemical reaction or through your behavioral response. And so, what you're saying from a psychological approach, like I said, it's very, what you say is founded in truth, and so that is so important. But I also wanted to piggyback off of what you're saying when it comes to you're grounding a person. So if worry and fear comes from a place of future hypotheticals, and so those future hypotheticals could be a second from now, could be 5 seconds from now. But when we think about what if, when our mind's eye is too far out in the future, it allows for us to focus on the potential for something not to happen. So what you're saying is you're grounding us back to the reality of right this second, I have breath, I have time, I have food in my refrigerator. And that is so important, because if you think even a second further out than what you should, unfortunately, that could tip you to the point of not feeling satisfied. So I love how what you're saying is to ground people to the present moment, that you have everything that you need in this particular moment.
Yes. And when you think about it too, from a psychological perspective, our brains are wired to constantly cycle between past, present, and future. It's like an infinity sign.
Yes.
It's, you know, we could be here. You could be listening thinking, what did I have for breakfast? What am I going to have for lunch? I mean, we're always doing that. Our minds do that, right? And to just fully be in the present moment all the time, I mean, wow, what a great goal. Is just not realistic, because we have these minds. Our minds want to go out into the future and collect information, and then it goes back into the past. Now, when you think about it, these 3 points in time, all time actually is simultaneous. And yet we can think of something from the past. And if that thing that we think of from the past is limiting or doesn't feel good, that then projects into a future that it's going to be the same, right? So it's up to us to understand that if the past comes up and we feel resistance, we have the ability to change our thoughts now so that we're having a new frame of reference, so that what we project in our future is different and it doesn't repeat the past.
Yes.
So by, like you were saying, what it...
No, go ahead.
It was the what if, right? You were saying what if? Well, what if this happens? What if you change the what if to really good stuff? Yeah. What if you were more successful than you ever thought you could be? What if you made more money than you ever did? What if you had the love of your life and you actually had loving and supportive relationships? What if in the middle of everything that's going on in the world right now, you felt good? What if?
Yeah. And that alone creates the dopamine in your brain. So you're now perceiving the what ifs, which then changes your mood, your affect, that all of a sudden changes the chemicals of your brain. So now all of a sudden you're flooded with dopamine, you're flooded with serotonin, you're super excited, like, oh my gosh, what if? And all of a sudden that changes the construct of how you view something. I always use an example of a diamond. So, diamonds have so many different facets. So if I always look at the situation the same way, there's certain facets, but if I ask that what if question, well, I slightly turn it, now I see through a different facet of it. And all of a sudden my reality is shifted from the prism. And so I can keep moving this all around and look at life however I want to based off of this diamond concept. And with that, when I see a slightly different approach to it, a different way of it, all of a sudden my reality changes.
Absolutely. Perfect. When you change the perspective, you change everything that you see. It's like when you change your thoughts, you change your life. And more people need to know this. That's why I'm grateful for you, James, for creating a show like this, where more and more people are starting to understand that I do create my reality, and I create it by my consciousness. What's our consciousness? Let's break it down. What we say, the very words that we choose. There are words. It says in the Bible, right? In the beginning, there was the word. Words have meaning. I remember years ago, I was going on this fabulous family vacation with my husband and my two boys. We were going on a cruise, and we were going to Australia and New Zealand. And my husband comes in my office and he goes, okay, what is our budget for the trip? And I'm like, ew, you just ruined the trip. I don't want to budget. It's so not sexy. I don't want to be like sitting at dinner going, oh, well, I'll have the chicken because I'm over budget. And he goes, well, we're not going to go there and blow all of our money. And he goes, so we have to be mindful. And I said, yes. And he goes, well, how about we allocate? And I'm like, oh, I like that word better. That's such a much better word than budget. There are so many words and phrases that people say all the time that pull our energy down, that are rooted in lack. As a matter of fact, and I'd love to give a gift to all of your listeners, I created a program, it's free, called Watch Your Words. You could go to watchyourwords.com, and it's 30 days and 30 different words and phrases. And in these videos, they're 2 to 4 minutes in length, it tells you what not to say, why, and what to say instead. I'll give an example. During the pandemic, everybody and their brother, from athletes to superstars to next door neighbors, were saying, I miss going to restaurants. I miss getting a pedicure. I miss seeing my friends. I miss. That word, now that might be true, but that word, I miss, pulls our energy down, and then we feel that we're missing something. And I remember walking up to my husband during the pandemic, and I said, I miss going on a date with you. And I went, wait, no. I'm looking forward to going on a date with you. And he said to me, let's go now. And we went outside, no kids, no dog, went outside, sat on a park bench, and we just connected. And I said, I'm really looking forward to going on a date and going on a dinner and having dinner with you. And then it started to become fun. Where would we go? When the restaurant's open again, what restaurant do we want to go to? So we had this lovely conversation of what our favorite restaurant is. And then it was, who do we want to go with? What do we want to go, just you and I, or do we want to go with couples? And we start talking about all our couple friends. And then for me, it was like, ooh, what am I going to wear? I had my outfit picked out weeks before the restaurant's even open. So a moment like that, instead of feeling like, why you can't do anything, I miss this, it became a creative opportunity. And the minute the restaurant opened, made the reservation, and we had a wonderful evening.
I absolutely love that. And one of the takeaways I received from that is a thought created another thought, and that thought that expanded another thought, and then more thoughts. And it became this exponential concept of one thought. Now all of a sudden you are able to experience the reality of that because you kept thinking it out more and more and more. And once again, it became that cascade effect, a domino effect, where all of a sudden you just went from a place of I miss to once again a place of abundance, because your thoughts created an environment for you, even though it was in your head, but it created the environment so you could and then actualize it when the time was correct, when the time was available.
Absolutely. And so our words, what we say is part of our consciousness. We need to be mindful. What we think, what we believe, what we feel, I mean, that's all about emotional intelligence,
Yes,
knowing
yes.
what you're feeling and the time that you're feeling it and being able to process the emotions and then communicating it, right? That's emotional intelligence, being able to self-manage. And then what we do. So if you think about it, we can't control circumstances, situations, other people outside of us. Most of us try to do that. And we fail in our attempts all the time,
Yes.
and it leads us to more frustration. But if we understand, I can't think for you, James, and you can't think for me. I can't speak for you, and you can't speak for me. You can't feel for me. I can't feel for you. You have your own consciousness. I have my own consciousness. And this is a beautiful part of being in relationships with others, is that you get to, like, I look at my husband, and if he says something, I'm like, wow, that's different than I think. I think this way. And we'll have a discussion about it instead of me going, well, you need to think like I think. You need to believe what I believe.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
No, let me tell you all the reasons why you're wrong and I'm right, and you need to think like me. It's my consciousness. I create my life from my consciousness, and each and every person does too.
You've taught so much already. Unfortunately, we don't have about 4 more minutes, but let's transition into your book. No reason for this episode, but I know you're teaching a lot of the concepts that are in the book. So once again, the book is called The Desire Factor: How to Embrace Your Materialistic Nature to Reclaim Your Full Spiritual Power. With these 7 different steps that you have, unfortunately, like I said, we don't have as much time, but what would be the first step that you would teach people to be like, wow, maybe life could be different?
Alignment. The very first principle is alignment. So when you know you desire something, we have to align our consciousness. It's perfect segue. We were just talking about that, right? What we think about. If you have a desire, say you have a desire to start a family or start a business, and you start thinking about what if and how great that will be, and you allow your thoughts to go to that, and what would that look like, and what would the person have the qualities be in that person, or whatever it is that you want. That's aligning with what you desire. But most people, when they hear themselves say, I really want a partner. No, the last time you had a partner got really hurt, and that's not worth it. So it's just better to be alone. Bam, you just cut off that force, that life force that gave you that desire in the first place. I'd love to start a business, but who am I? I don't know anything about running a business. We cut ourselves off. And that is misalignment. Those thoughts, those beliefs of what we talked about in the past, as a reference point, we then don't allow ourselves to grow and become more that desire gives us the potential to do.
Yes.
So alignment is absolutely important.
Is there another step where distractions come in from that alignment?
Yes. I mean, it's the whole entire process. The 7-step process is literally how energy sets up. And it's like a padlock. So you don't want to have one out of order, because it builds. So you have your alignment, and then you have your focus. That's the second principle, is understanding that we have free will and choice. So even when we're focused on what we want and we hear a thought that goes against it, that's us, and having the ability to refocus, going, wait, I just heard myself say I can't have that, which is one of the words, by the way, can't. Whenever you hear yourself say can't, you got to change it. But whether it's I can't afford, or I can't do this anymore, or whatever the can't is. So I call that having split energy. You're moving in this direction, then you hear something in your thoughts, or you feel something that is different than what you want. Then that's up to us to bring that back into focus, so that we're focusing on what we want.
One of my favorite quotes is divided waters lose force. And so it goes with the same concept that you have both versions. So if I have this desire, but then I have this other aspect, and if I focus on both of them, all of a sudden my energy output has been diminished significantly. And with that, unfortunately, it will cause us to unfortunately stay stagnant in our life.
Exactly. We have energy moving in 2 different directions, and we feel pulled. Yeah.
Yes. Christy Whitman, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on my show. I'm so sorry we didn't get a chance to go through all the book, but I had so much fun. You explained so many different things, so many different concepts to my listeners and viewers. And I know they're going to, once they purchase this book, one more time, The Desire Factor, How to Embrace Your Materialistic Nature to Reclaim Your Full Spiritual Power. I know this will definitely change your lives. So if they want to find out more information about you and to purchase all of your books, I highly endorse all of them. Where would they find this information online?
Well, you can definitely go to watchyourwords.com. That's where you can get that free 30-day video program to start you on your words. Or you can go to christywhitman.com, look me up on Amazon. All my books are there. Or go to local bookstores, Barnes & Noble. They're everywhere books are sold.
Wonderful. Well, my listeners also know that if you cannot find this information any other place, simply go to the show notes at jamesmillerlifeology.com, and I will link you once again with Christy Whitman. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on my show today.
Thank you, James.